Hello, thank you for joining me. I am Donnie from the Philomath Montessori School, and I had an idea for a project, and I did this project, an experiment really, and I thought you might like to do it too. It's a very simple experiment. All you really need are some dried beans from your kitchen. This is an experiment in sprouting beans, and I'm going to tell you how to conduct your experiment. You want to put some wet paper towels either in a plastic bag like this, and then you just want to put a few beans in there. I put 10 beans in there, and then you can tape it to a window. You can just tape it right on a window, and it will stick in the window, and that way you know it's getting good sunlight. Another way you can do the experiment, a different way, is you can do it on a plate. And you can put wet paper towels on the plate, very wet. Put your 10 beans on those paper towels, and then put more wet paper towels on the plate. You can leave it like that, but you need to make sure that you water it every day so that those paper towels stay wet. If you do not want to water it every day, then you must cover your plate with plastic wrap. Cover it up tight, and that will hold the moisture in. Now the moisture cannot evaporate away. And the beans need to be in a moist environment in order to sprout. I put my beans in their moist environments on April 24th, 2020, and I checked them today to see if there has been any change. Let's look. I probably should have shown you, here's what a plain white bean, here's what the beans look like when I first put them in. They look like that. Some of them look like they've changed. Let me show you. Look, what is bursting right out of that husk, the husk of that bean. It's the sprout, isn't it? And the outside of the bean is like coming off. See that? The outside of the bean has gotten soft, and it's coming off the bean, and this green sprout has come out of the bean. So those are the changes that I noticed in just a few days. Now, when you conduct an experiment, it is wise to write your findings. Some of you have notebooks like this. Some of you, I've noticed at our Zoom meetings, have spiral notebooks. So you could open it up to a clean page, and you could make one page about your experiment. And you could write up at the top, sprouting beans. You could write the start date. This says start date, question mark. Start date, question mark, 4/24/2020. Do you know how to write the date numerically? Instead of writing April 4th, 2020, I wrote 4/24 because April is the 4th month. January, February, March, April. April's the 4th month, so I can express that numerically. So that was my start date. That's the day I put the beans in the moist environment. Then here it says conditions of experiment. So if I was writing this down in my notebook, I would write down the start date and the conditions of the experiment. That's what you did. How did you set up the experiment? You might write, I put beans in a wet paper towel, in a plastic bag, and I taped it to the window. What direction is that window facing? Did you tape it to a north, south, east, or west facing window? If you're not sure, you could ask your parents. which direction is this window facing? I put mine in a south-facing window because that is the sunniest. We also get a lot of sun on the west side, but I chose the south side. What else could you write about the conditions of your experiment? Did you do it in a plate and leave it uncovered so that you're going to get it wet every day? Or did you cover it in plastic? You should write that. That's important. That's part of the conditions. And then where did you put your plate? Did you put it in a sunny windowsill? Which direction? And then observations of changes. So now what I would write in my scientific report, I would write those observations that I shared with you. Did I tell you that the beans got fatter? I don't think I told you that. The beans got fatter. The outer husk got soft and came off one of those beans. A green sprout started shooting out, and some of the beans seemed unchanged. Now, I have not opened up this one here to see what's in there because I don't want to give away all my surprises. And I want you to do your own experiment. See what happens to your beans. How long is it going to take your beans to sprout? Will all of your beans sprout? I've been warned that they won't all sprout because these are beans that were not really meant for gardening. These were beans meant for eating. But now that some of my beans have sprouted, I'm going to wait a while longer, and when the experiment is over and I've made all my notes and come away with all my findings, I'm going to take my beans, my sprouted beans, and I'm going to plant them in my garden. And then the experiment can go on. I can get a new page, turn a new page on my notebook, and I can start writing about the bean plants in the garden. How long does it take them to poke their little heads up out of the soil? How tall did they grow in a week? I could get a ruler and measure how tall they got in a week. How tall did they get in a month? When did they start to put on flowers? When did those flowers turn into bean pods? When did the beans get nice and plump and ready to harvest? And when did I harvest them? And did we eat them right away? You can go on with your experiment. So do this experiment. Write about it if you are a writer like me. Get help with the writing if you need it. And even if you're not a writer, you can still sprout these beans and have a great time doing it. It is so exciting to see what happens. Usually we don't get to see things sprout because it's happening underground. I hope you enjoy this idea for a scientific experiment with sprouting beans, and maybe you will write me an email at the school and let me know how your experiment went. Or maybe you'll tell me about it at group. Thanks for coming today. Have a wonderful time with your experiment. Bye-bye.